I have a lot of women that it's just like, man, I just wanted it to sting a little bit and him to figure out that, parenting is hard and that doing this alone is hard. And
Ugly Truth of Divorce podcast with Sam and Leah, helping you not just survive, but thrive.
hello, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Ugly Truth of Divorce podcast with your hosts, Sam and Leah. And as always, our podcast is sponsored by TNC, the Next Chapter membership for moms, where we give weekly trainings and some coaching. I have been inside of my support groups. I have admins that run my support group, and they have been talking nonstop about the chatter of people having a hard time with new significant others. So in our support groups, people can post questions, people can post like little stories and comments and things like that. And I guess there's just like, I think it's the holiday season coming up. People are chit-chatting about who their kids are going to be exposed to, and somebody's got a new boo for the holidays, and there's a lot of emotions being like talked about, so we wanted to come on today and just kind of maybe walk through some reasonings of why you might be a little triggered if your ex has moved on to someone, and especially with this holiday season. I mean, we have this expectation of what we think the holidays should be like for our children. And maybe if we find out our ex has a new boo, we're like, can't you just focus on the kids? You got to bring in this new person and something like that. So let us know if you're listening to this. Has your ex moved on, and how do you feel about it?
Yeah. And it is tougher, I think, when there's kids involved, right? Because if
Oh,
there's
yeah.
not, then we would just be like, block him, stop looking on his social media,
Right.
tell your friends to stop giving you the deeds and, focus on yourself and focus on your healing. But when there's kids, it's like, it's right in your face and you
Yeah.
have to be involved with this person somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Right.
Have I ever told you the story of going to the Christmas parade one year? I think I have. This story is classic. Classic. Okay. So my ex-husband and I, we're going through this horrible divorce. I think we're on year maybe 2 or 3 of it. We're not officially divorced yet. And there's a Christmas small town, 3,000 people. We go to a Christmas parade, and this is a point where we were both trying to look good in court. So we are like meeting together, standing in the same spot so the kids can see both of us. Cause this is the kind of toxicity that I lived in for years, where I'm going to force myself to go stand by this man so my kids can see us both for the fucking Christmas parade and see Santa at the same time, and yada, yada, yada. And so I show up, I bring the kids, and he like pops up, as the parade is starting, he like pops up out of nowhere. And I was like, cool, he's here, and my kids are getting candy from the road and all this. And there's thousands of, hundreds of people alongside the road. And I'm not paying much attention. And I like look over and I see somebody standing next to him. And I was like, there's tons of people. So maybe he just struck up, a conversation with the person next to him. So I didn't pay much attention. And the kids are running out to the street to get candy, coming back. They're waving at people, blah, blah, blah. 2 minutes go by and I look over and he's still talking to this person. And I look closely. And it's our old babysitter. And I thought, it was the girl that literally babysat for us a couple times, but she lived on our block when we were married, and she walked her dog past our house every day, twice a day. And I look over and I said, well, what are you doing here? Like, you brought a babysitter to help us at the parade? That's literally the words that came out of my mouth. You brought a babysitter to help us manage there's 2 adults, 2 children. You brought the babysitter to help us? That's where my head went. And she stands there and she wraps her arm around his arm. Now, mind you, this girl just graduated less than a hot fucking minute ago. He's he's in his 30s. She wraps her arm around his arm and like puts her head on his shoulder. And I burst out into the biggest laughter. I couldn't stop myself. I kept laughing. I was cry laughing. I was laughing some more. I would just look at her and I was just like, oh my God. Like, are you shitting me? Like, you brought the babysitter to the fucking Christmas parade. So my kids are looking at her like, didn't she walk past our house when we were kids? Like, it was one of those moments where I literally was outside of myself going, is this my life? Is this my life? This man in his late 30s is now bringing the babysitter. He's dating her, and they dated for months. But that feeling of turning around thinking, you fool, we don't need to help with you brought a babysitter. Like, I'm not paying her for this, And then no, she wraps her arm around and tilts her head down. I'm like, oh, sister, You are gonna learn so much in this relationship. Good for you that you're like literally, I think she was 19 or 20. You're gonna learn so much here. But her mom owned the liquor store and her mom wasn't doing well. So I think there was opportunity for money. Just saying, it is
Mm,
what it is. But
mhm.
shout out, Amanda.
Yeah.
You lived and you learned and you moved on. Good for you, sister. But
Oh, geez. Yeah,
that was
and classic narcissist move, right? He's gotta hop to something real quick. It's
oh, I
convenient when
think
it's someone
there
who's
was like
local.
3 before her. I mean, there was 3 or 4 before her already. So that's why I wasn't even like they were at least like married, and older. My ex-husband was famous for breaking up marriages because
Nice.
he knew better. He knew that those women were not in the best situation because he knew, so he was helping
Yeah.
them all.
Took advantage of
Anyways, let's get to the list of what are we going through as the mom? What are we going through when we see the babysitter walk up?
that.
Like,
Right. So
what are some things?
there's a lot. I've got a list here of some of the most common struggles that moms are facing when they're
Okay.
acting as a new significant other. So number one, and this sometimes I think you have to really look inward and identify if this is really what's going on, but it's feeling replaced.
Mm,
Moms may feel like they're being replaced in their kids' lives, especially if the new partner is spending significant amount of
yeah.
time with the kids. So is that where your anger and resentment is coming from? Is it really you feeling replaced? Number two, concerns over influence on the kids. So worrying about the new partner's values, behaviors, potential influence on your children. Three, comparison traps. So it's easy to fall into a mindset of comparing yourself to the new partner,
Yeah.
especially regarding physical appearance, lifestyle, relationship with the kids. And it could even be stuff like I've been begging him to do X, Y, and Z for 25 years, and now he's
Yeah.
with Miss Blondie and doing everything and then some. What the fuck,
Yeah.
right?
I asked him to stay home and take me on dates, and now he's taking her on dates every weekend. Like,
Right.
what the hell,
Right. So kind of comparing yourself. Number four is boundaries with parenting. Some of you guys might feel that the new partner is overstepping or trying to take on this, new parental role, which can
Yeah.
piss you off, right? It creates a lot of tension. Number five, resentment and grief over the relationships end. Some of you potentially are still just dealing with this aspect,
Or
the new
that he
relationship kind of reopening wounds and unresolved feelings from the past relationship.
and I think I have a couple clients right now who, because he didn't take a break, makes them
Mhm.
reflect of like, "Did I not matter? Like, you're not even
Right.
grieving the loss of me, like,
Like,
you
am I that
already have somebody
disposable?
else." Yeah,
Yeah,
in the bed and, like, you're not even taking a beat. So, like,
right.
what does that say about our relationship? Here I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, I can't do this divorce." I finally did, and then boom, you move on in 2 seconds. It's
Yeah,
like, you didn't even give a shit, you
right,
know?
right. Six is children's confusion or mixed emotions. Children may feel confused, conflicted, or guilty, and may even try to protect their mama by withholding information or downplaying their feelings about the new partner. Right,
Yeah.
like not being honest, or maybe they really like her and they're just afraid to tell you that because they don't want to hurt your feelings or they don't know how that's
Yeah.
going to go. Right, so that can put the kids in a weird situation. And then the seven is just fear of the unknown, which I think on the divorce journey as a whole, this comes up a lot, right?
Yeah.
Just fear of the unknown in general, not knowing how long this new partner is going to be around, how things might change over time, or what impact this could have on your co parenting dynamics. A lot of that can evoke a lot of fear.
I think these are all really good, and we talked about this before when we were discussing this. I think there's an 8th one where I have a lot of moms that are upset about the new significant other because there's no justice yet of watching dad parent alone, struggle, figure it out, do it himself. Like
Yeah,
he moves somebody in really quick, gets this new relationship going, and now he has an
a teammate.
assist. He
Yeah,
has people helping him. He has a partner. He has somebody helping with laundry and food and
right,
everything. And then I'm over here trying to navigate, yard work and finances and house and travel plans and getting
right.
the kids across town in 5
And
different
trying
locations.
to heal and build
Yeah,
my life back up again and figure
all
myself out.
myself. And then he's
Mhm.
over here like, la da da, I'm getting laid and I'm getting help with the kids and I'm, got somebody help me with bills and they move on so fast. So there's like this injustice of
Yeah.
like he never had to go through the struggle. He didn't have to go through the pain. He didn't even have to figure out how to travel and get him all over the town in 2 different locations. Like, now he has somebody. So I have a lot of women that it's just like, "Man, I just wanted it to sting a little bit and him to figure out that, parenting is hard and that doing this alone is hard."
Yeah.
And he doesn't, partly because I'm gonna be honest, he ain't no dummy. He sees that he doesn't have a skill set. He sees he doesn't have patience. He sees that he doesn't know how to do laundry. He sees that, man, I can't get one kid A over here and kid B over here because I'm not off work yet. I, he's no dummy. He had to pull in somebody to help him out, and honestly, like, men don't want to be alone. They don't want to do that self-reflective phase of, let me work through my shit. And I'm not saying all men. I'm just saying those men that don't think that they did anything wrong in the marriage, and it's not their reason why they're going through divorce. They think, "Oh, I'm the best catch there is. Watch me. I'm going to show you how good of a catch I am. I'm going to go find somebody in 3 seconds." And I'm
Mhm.
not you're missing out. So I'm going to go move somebody in. I'm going to go have somebody with me really quickly. And then you as the mom, I just feel like there's this a little bit of injustice, a little bit
Mhm.
of what the fuck,
Mhm.
like, he's not even ever going to struggle. He's not going to go without. Why did I do this? And I just, and the kids, I mean, I thought that would bother the kids more than it did. Growing up, my ex-husband was famous for having, multiple different women in their lives over the years because he couldn't be alone and no self-reflection time. And it was one woman after another after another. And the first 8 I was really upset about because I'm like, can't we just focus on kids? Can't we just let the kids be kids? Like, why do we keep having to introduce all these people? And a lot of the women had children themselves too. So now my kids are meeting other kids. They're building this bond. And then she wakes up and figures out who he is. So then she leaves and takes the new kids. And then now my kids are like, where'd those kids go? Where'd this woman go? We liked her. And then the last 8 women have been different, a little bit longer relationships there. And my kids kind of picked up on, don't get attached. This woman's not going to be here long. Even if she is, there's a chance I could still be friends with her, even when he breaks up with her or she breaks up with him. And my kids are close with a couple of them because they had such a great impact in their lives. But I think having the perspective I was telling you earlier, I've never really been like butthurt about these women.
Mhm.
Partly because I knew for him, getting laid and having somebody stroke his ego made my life easier.
Right, and that can certainly happen too, right? Like, especially if it's somebody who's high conflict and their job is, like, just making your life a living hell. It is nice when a distraction comes around so that they can ease up a little bit. So if that does happen, good for you. You're one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean, and we're talking about high conflict exes that just can't can't do it alone. I
yeah.
mean, I have a lot of dad clients right now. Shout out to Danny. I mean, Danny's one of those guys that's doing a lot of work on himself. He wants to be single. He wants to get his head right. He wants to get his headspace good. He wants to be clear of all the garbage. He wants to just really have a good foundation before he can attract anything else. And that's a man that is like what we're doing. What we're talking about for the women, taking the time to heal, taking the time to rebuild. What do I want? What am I looking for? What do I have to offer? So I'm not saying all men are like this. Is high conflict, narcissistic
Mhm.
men tend to move on in 2.3 seconds
Mhm.
and have this new live in. And then the mom struggles with, so the question yesterday was, why, who do I deal with? Do I have to deal with her if she's the one sending all of the messages, if she's the one calling, if she's the one getting on his OFW and she's the one responding? Do I
Mhm.
have to respond to her? And the answer to that in my book is yes. You
Yeah.
got an answer. You're wanting an answer, right? You're wanting to know what time or are the kids going to be. If she's the one that's communicating now for that household, then yeah, you're dealing with her.
Yeah.
And the more you show resistance to that, and the more you throw a fit about that, and the more you put your foot down and say, I'm not talking to you, I'm only talking to my ex husband, you're going to get met with more messages from her because now they know they got your goat. Now they know that you're upset and they're just going to keep feeding into that. So I think it's just easier to be like, as long as I get an answer, I don't give a shit who it's from,
Yeah.
because you don't have a say in it. You have no control over who responds to you.
That could be that's a hard pill to swallow. I know.
It
And for
is.
some of you listening, you're like, "What the fuck? I didn't sign up to co-parent with this stranger. Like,
Right.
I don't I didn't have kids with her or why is she?" But this always comes down to, you can't control what's happening in the other house, right? You just can't. Just as if you start dating a significant other and they step up and they step parenting and being a part of your crew, your core crew at home, they're going to be doing things and making decisions and communicating
Right.
sometimes, right? I mean, if it's just one of those things. And so here's some kind of actionable steps for you if you are navigating this dynamic and you're just kind of in the what the fuck, like you don't really know what to do.
Right.
Number one, first and foremost, you've got to shift your focus to what you can control.
Preach.
Stop focusing on all the shit you have absolutely no power over, right? Remind yourself that you can't control who your co-parent dates. You can't.
No.
Focus instead on providing a stable, healthy, loving environment for your kids. That's your job, right? That's what's in your control. So stop giving your power away. Number two, boundaries, non-negotiable. You have to set and
Yeah.
reinforce healthy boundaries. If the new partner is becoming involved in decision making, respectfully, calmly communicate any boundaries you'd like to establish, right? This could be like expectations about how communication will flow or any other areas affecting the kids. Mind you, a boundary is not telling somebody what to do. Okay. That's a request or
Right.
a statement. A boundary is only about you and what you can control. It's not changing anyone else. So if you're going to be setting these boundaries, it's telling them what you will and will not tolerate and what will happen if they don't respect that boundary, right? What is the consequence? Right? So make sure you're actually setting boundaries the right way, not thinking you're setting a boundary and really just telling somebody to do something.
Right.
Third is self-compassion, right? You have to acknowledge and validate your own feelings about all of this because there's a
Yeah.
lot of feelings that will come up around this. So it's okay to feel jealous, upset, pissed, anxious, So process that. By processing your emotions, you're going to be better equipped to handle everything that's going on in this new person with more grace and not let them impact your co-parenting or your decision making or what is going on in your house.
Right.
Number four, focus on being the best version of yourself. Again, we always tell you, you've got to bring it back to you, right?
Yeah.
And what you're in control of. So instead of comparing, investing in energy in your own well-being, right? That's where you need to be putting your power and putting your attention. Spend time on things that you love. Hobbies, social activities, friends, self-care routines, right? Build a fulfilling life on your own and stop paying attention to the things you can't control. Number five, offer open, judgment free communication with your kids. Let your kids know that they can express their feelings about their dad's new partner without fear of judgment or guilt from you.
This is the big one that I think a lot of women don't realize their fart face is on when their kid starts
Right.
talking about, well, hey, Miss Stacy took us here and we had so much fun and her kids were fun and blah blah blah. And you have this resting bitch face look on your face. Your kid picks up on that. Your energy you have to remember your kids should be able to share joy with you about anything, about dad, about new girlfriend, about school, about friends, about a hobby that you think is ridiculous. Your kids should be able to come and express joy with you without you giving yeah, but if you only knew, blah, blah, blah. Like
Right.
this is a child wanting to just share part of their life with you, and I did a TikTok about this a while back where dealing with a lot of women in my children's lives in their childhood. You want your kids to enjoy this person. Because when you have a situation where your kids don't enjoy this person, it is hard to not put yourself in Fight Club and
Right.
wanna go beat somebody's ass.
Right.
So,
It's
you
worse.
gotta be you gotta be overly excited that at least my kids find comfort with this person, find joy with this person, like, they're excited to see this person, like, thank goodness, versus my kid comes home and says, she's like mommy dearest, and it's horrible situation, which
Right.
again, I'm noticing people say something like, well, she treats my kid different than she treats her own children. And I'm just going to say this as being a former stepmom. That's pretty normal aside from abuse. It's pretty normal to have your connection to your children and not to someone else's children. And there will be a difference in some things. And how
Mhm.
I would tell my child to deal with that would be like, hey, kiddo, Mrs. Smith, who you had last year for second grade, she had her favorites and she had her not so favorites, and you weren't one of her favorites.
Again, you
Everybody
can't control the way
Mhm.
that they're interacting with your kids, that dynamic, or how they're treating them, or how they feel about them. You have no control over that. So what you do have control over is empowering your kids. How do I give them the tools? How do I
Yes.
have this open communication with my kids? How do I make sure I'm filling their love tank and know their love languages, and doing all those things when they're with me?
Yes. Yeah. So it's just a matter of like really think about how you're presenting when your kid comes home to tell you something, and you don't dive into a bunch of questions. Well, then what'd she do? Well, then what did she say? Like, if you want to know that, call her, text her, ask her, let your kids share what they want to share. That way they keep sharing with you the good and the bad, maybe. But you got to think about what your face looks like because when a kid sees that they're upsetting you, they'll shut down. But when a kid comes home, and this is an example I just had, a kid came home and said how mean the new step girlfriend was, or stepmom or the girlfriend was, and the mom was like, "Oh, really? Like, how mean is she?" And she showed joy that the kid was bothered by how bitchy this woman was. So what did the kid come home and do the next 7 times? Oh, mom, you wouldn't believe what she did this time. This time she yelled at us. This time she did, and mom's getting all like, ha ha ha. So she's not a good fit. So she's not, she's not a good person. You're thriving off of your child having a bad. You got to really think about the energy you're showing your kid when they tell something because kids instinctively want to make you happy. So if you get happy at bad news, your kid's going to keep giving you bad news because that makes you happy. Just
Mhm.
like if you're joyful, a kid's going to be like, "Okay, great. I can tell mom anything." She has a neutral face. She's pleased to hear that. But she's also not overly excited to where I don't feel like I can't come to her and say anything that's bad. She's there for me. She's a good support person to listen instead of giving always feedback. I think as moms, we got to do a really good job sometimes of just listening and not always saying something right after and giving
Yeah.
our spin and giving our redirection or, well, next time you should say this. Well, next time you should do this. We just need to
Mhm.
listen sometimes.
Yeah,
You
which
don't
which
that
is
sounds
hard
great.
because we're so used to trying to help our kids solve problems, right? We try to
All right.
solve problems for them. But
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you just gotta be the ears, not
Yep.
the
Mhm.
mouth.
Sounds good. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for
Yeah.
letting me know. Thanks for letting me know. Was there any
Uh,
more helpful tips?
yes. So number 6 is it's get support from those who understand, right? Get into those support groups, talk with friends
Yeah.
who get it, who understand your situation and who don't feed the fire, right? We're talking about people who can remain neutral in this, not people who want to get on that train of talking shit or making things more
Oh,
dramatic
good
than they need to
lord.
be, right? Like sometimes just knowing that somebody can share their similar struggles like in a support group, right? That just alleviates feelings of isolation. It helps provide, a different perspective. So be careful who you're talking to and make sure
Well,
that it's going to be a productive
we
conversation.
just had a client yesterday. We do clarity calls for our people in TNC, the next chapter for moms. And in that clarity call, as we were wrapping up, she just said, "Hey, I have to tell you too, I've been in a lot of different groups and a lot of different support groups." But she's like, what was her exact wording? She said, "There's just something about you two that's so real. I
Yes.
feel
Our
connected, like
dynamic
you
is
get it."
yes,
You
yes.
get it, and I feel like that's a testament to TNC that in real time, there's people in there going through the exact same thing you're going through, and they're mostly all dealing with high conflict, mostly dealing with, severe divorce cases or high conflict co-parenting situations, and then Leah and I are in there giving trainings once a week and giving in there doing those clarity calls and letting people and a lot of the clarity calls is people wanting validation, like, "Am I crazy? Or is this not right?" And we're like,
Right.
"Yes, that's not right, but what can we control?" And we redirect them and give them some strategies and some focal points. And I think her testimony yesterday was like, "I've dabbled in a lot of groups, and this one has it.
This is the one. Yeah.
This is the one."
I actually I pulled it up. She sent this in an email after we had the clarity session. And this might help you. So it says, I have had several other divorce coaches, heard many other podcasts, watched plenty of YouTube videos, read a plethora of books, all of which has helped me. But once I decided to join the next chapter with Sam and Leah, I cannot begin to tell you how much my life was impacted and how everything I learned and continue to learn suddenly was being put into practice. Everything they said just hit home with me. I felt heard for the first time and I felt comforted and not alone in my pain and circumstances. That alone was priceless. I was able to get myself to the point of taking action finally being able to build that strength and acknowledge within, oh, excuse me, and knowledge within the TNC community is a gift I can never repay. I still use the teachings on a daily basis, and I still plan on using the support system offered through TNC, their workshops, courses, services, and Facebook support groups to continue my journey of self-love and freedom. I cannot thank you both enough. I mean, that's just like, it makes me want to cry.
I mean,
But
good Lord, that
yeah,
was perfect.
but this is like, this is what we mean, right? We always go on here and we mention it, but honestly, if you're not in there, get in there. Like, you're making things harder for yourself. There's so many
Yeah.
resources. There's so much support. As you just heard, it literally is life changing. And these are the things that we wish we fucking had. We know I've been through 2 divorces. Sam was through a hellstorm of a divorce,
Mhm.
like years and years and years and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We have a lot of knowledge that we want to
Right.
share so that you don't have to learn the hard way like we did. So if you're not in there yet, the next chapter, it's an amazing place to go and get a ton of information on all the things that you're struggling with right now during divorce and co-parenting.
Yeah, I feel like, somebody asked me the other day, they're like, "What's your certificate in?" And I was like, "Certified divorce mediator and high conflict coach." But I don't feel like any of the classes I took were like "Oh my gosh, I walked away from that class and I'm like mind blown at how much I learned." A
Yeah.
lot of it is the experience of being inside the support groups, doing our consultations. Like, I've learned more from client situations and learning how to strategy and hearing stories, and the books that I've read are way more than the certificates I've had. So I
Right.
want, if you're out looking for a divorce coach or even looking for an attorney, the credentials are one thing. Always check the box. Yes, these are certified people. They have actual training, but where's their experience at?
Right. Did you
You
live
know,
it?
yeah,
Right.
did you live it? Have you had so many clients that it's almost like you've lived it? I want you to make sure that you're really investigating who you share your life with during this phase, because it's a make or break phase. I mean, it's like a death. You're going to mourn, you're going to grieve, you're going to be sad, you're going to be angry, you're going to have highs and really low lows. And you just want somebody there that knows exactly what you're saying.
Mhm.
Sam, why does that sound like because I've lived this life. I have a decade of clients telling me the exact same stories and doing the same thing. So it's really important to just surround yourself with people that have knowledge, yes, but also experience, so they can help you really strategize in your case. Because some of the knowledge that we just dropped, people are like, "Why didn't my attorney tell me that?" And I'm like, "I don't know.
It's not their job
I
either.
don't know." Yeah,
That's what I think a lot of people get confused is they think that they can get all the support they need from their attorney because they've done this before. This is what they do for a living, right? But no,
yeah,
they're not there to help you co-parent. They're not there to help you heal or get your mind right or change your perspective, right?
yeah.
They're there to do the legal stuff, to get the
Mhm.
paperwork signed, right? And processed. You need people to help you through all of the other shit that is divorce and the
Yeah.
recovery process.
Yeah, and like today, dealing with significant others, the reason it got brought up too is I had a client yesterday that said, "Can I put in my parenting plan that he cannot bring anybody around my kids?" And I was like, first off, you can put anything that you can get inside of a parenting plan. Getting it signed by a judge is a completely different thing. You can write down any sentence you want to be in there, but you have to ask yourself, like, do you want that same rule for you too? That you
Right.
meet Mr. Wonderful or Miss Wonderful at the coffee shop and hit it off and wedded bliss in the near future, but now you have something in your parenting plan that paralyzes you too, that you can't now expose your children to joy and love because you were making sure that he couldn't do that. So that's where I think a good divorce coach comes in and helps you take the emotion out of that question and really look at it factually of like,
Mhm.
okay, let's play this all the way out. How will this affect you? How will this affect long term? Are you wanting just a buffer period? Are you wanting forever? So there are little different things, but that's what kind of brought this up. I was just like, I think significant others, because it's such an emotional thing, needs to be talked about a little bit more. We needed to be talking about the true facts of, yeah, it fucking hurts when your ex brings somebody to a major event and you think you had the expectation that this was going to be a parent only thing. And then in walks your ex with somebody new and maybe even her family. I've been in
Mhm.
that situation before where I'm like, okay, now we're bringing grandma and grandpa and like, what? Like, kids haven't even met her yet. And now her parents are here. Like, what is going on? But again, my expectation would be you don't do that. It doesn't mean your ex has the same parenting expectations. They
Right.
think new wife, new family. Move them in.
Right.
Everybody's going to take on these kids now, and we just have differences. And you have to expect that your viewpoint on something is not going to be your ex's viewpoint on something.
Right, which is
You
why
may
you're probably divorced, right?
absolutely,
Right, like, you
you
guys
know,
don't make a good team, you don't agree on a lot of stuff, so you can't expect them to be on the same page as you for a lot of things when it comes to co-parenting either. You gotta lower your expectations.
lower those expectations. I think that if anything would be the number one thing for all of our clients is like, they come to us with such heat and such passion and they're so upset. And it's like, you had them up here. That's your mistake. You thought that they would parent like you. You thought they'd co-parent with you. You thought that they'd play fair and play by the same rules and be respectful. That's not the case. Like, they're hurt and hurt people hurt. And so they're going to play dirty and they're going to do dirty things. I think when you can have radical acceptance around that, you're already on a better path of healing just by that step alone. Radical acceptance. I am not going to be treated fairly here. I'm not going to my expectations will not be this person's expectations. But you can't control it. So if your ex has moved on, best bet is to embrace it. Have your boundaries. Have some good, healthy boundaries with it. But trying to fight it is just going to cause you more havoc than what it's worth. So, was there any other good tips that we need to end with, or was that all of them?
Focus on the bigger picture. Remind
Yeah,
yourself that ultimately having additional caring adults in your kids' lives can be a good thing. So while it's natural to feel uncomfortable, try to see the new partner or as another source of support for your kids. And celebrate your role and relationship with your kids. Remember, no one can replace you or the bond
right.
that you share with your kids. So embrace your role fully, focusing on how you want to show up for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's big. I think again, what can I control? My relationship with my children. I can control that. I can put work and effort into there no matter who walks in. It doesn't matter. Cinderella could walk in and show my kids a great time. My kids are still going to come back to me and love me just as much. But it's great that they have Cinderella over there as well. I got to find joy in that. It's not a competition. But
Mhm.
if you make it a competition, that's going to get ugly really fast. So, all right, you guys, pass this along to a girlfriend that is probably struggling with their ex moving on. She needs to hear some of these things. She needs to feel supported and just validated that, yeah, it's okay to be upset, but take those tangible steps to get on the path of healing and not resisting. Until next time, guys, take care of yourselves.